The heart's intelligence. The heart is located at the vital intersection between the brain and the gut and the body's anatomy. It is the engine of our circulatory system, is central to our emotional regulation. On a subtle level, it is the fourth of 7 major chakras, and its role is to integrate the denser, more instinctive part of our earthly experience with higher cognition and spiritual illumination. It is noteworthy that in the West, we often define mind and heart as being distinct. Ancient Chinese sages, however, believed that the heart was actually the center of human cognition. In Chinese, the word Zin translates both as heart and mind, but depending on the context, it can also mean core, intention, or emotion. Equanimy is another capacity of the heart. It includes the beauty of our human experience and our suffering. It anticipates the ups and downs of life, the ins and outs, and allows for them both. Our thinking mind is usually binary, highlighting opposites such as black or white, and intolerant of ambiguity or shades of gray. Our life is full of contradictions that create difficulties for the mind, but the heart's intelligence tells us that even though there is injury, injustice, and oppression, our life is fundamentally worthy. Working with these difficult challenges provides the conditions that allow us to develop the heart's innate intelligence and its ability to hold paradoxes and contradictions in a way. Go ahead, Stace, go ahead. Working with these difficult challenges provides the conditions that allow us to develop the heart's innate intelligence and its ability to hold paradoxes and contradictions in a way that the mind cannot. The heart's most powerful asset is its ability to love, which means to open to the part of our human experience as well as to that which is painful and include them both. It is a powerful symbol of our deepest values, and it represents our interconnectedness. It provides us with the ability to extend openness and care to all beings, regardless of any flaws, errors, or harms in the past. The poet Bell Hooks questioned people about what force in their lives had compelled them to make a profound transformation from a will to dominate to a will to be compassionate. They all reported that the transformation occurred as a result of experiences grounded in love. Thus, it is love that provides the most transformative power when it comes to addressing our ills and catalyzing our movements against oppression and toward justice and fairness. Doc Childre, founder and CEO of HeartMath, describes heart intelligence as the flow of awareness, understanding, and intuitive guidance we experience when the mind and emotions are brought into coherent alignment with the heart. Mr. Ben! This intelligence steps down the power of love from universal source into our life's interactions in practical, approachable ways which inform us of a straighter path to our fulfillment. Cultivation of heart intelligence is absolutely essential to being a whole human being. We live in a world where birth and death come hand in hand, where loss is an inescapable reality, and where suffering ranges from the commonplace to the horrific, and where justice is an aspiration that must always be demanded and fought for. Our spiritual awakening depends on a willingness to acknowledge these challenging realities. Thanks, Stace, and hi, Mr. Ben. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, refers to the spirit of emergence, where only after understanding how utterly vulnerable to suffering we are, can we become sufficiently disillusioned with our negative habits of mind and with the behaviors that create so much of our suffering. This disillusionment has a calming effect on the mind and opens us up to our deep, unconditioned nature. This is the subtle part of ourselves that remains undisturbed by the ups and downs of life. By coming to terms with our predisposition to suffer, we can access tremendous compassion for ourselves and others. And then, so Jack, basically I wanted to bring this out because I feel like this helps me better give like context to where I say like, I think the biggest focus is like on you. And then also I feel like I'm using this book to it's helping me handle like people around me and stuff. And so like I feel like I also kind of want to go on because it goes on to talk about compassion, which is something that I think is what comes into play when we are in a situation with someone who we might be in like a power struggle with, actually, because it also talks about power struggle and power dynamics in this book. I'm gonna read just a little bit more, I think. I appreciate this because I've had a lot of struggles and I've been using my downtime to learn to be more compassionate and confident. Dude, Jack, that is literally what I do now when I'm not feeling well. I literally go and try to figure out what kind of like self-work I can do. Oh no, Mr. Ben! So this is the book, by the way, Jack. Good, I'm glad about that, El Waspel. Okay, so I'm gonna read the compassion part since you specifically said you're working on your compassion. I think you'll appreciate this and it might be reaffirming a little bit. The emotional domain is the gateway to the heart. In other words, working with our feeling states, both positive and negative, contributes to the development of emotional maturity and to the heart's intelligence. Y'all, this is what we're doing here. Each of us has learned to deal with our feelings differently based on our upbringing, culture, and developmental stage. Some of us suppress our feelings or avoid them, others seemingly drown in them, while still others dramatize and act them out in all kinds of unhelpful ways. Whatever the nature of your habitual emotional patterns, there is always an opportunity to practice and refine the ways you experience and process emotions. This involves being willing to feel your emotional state, while at the same time letting go of those feelings when they no longer serve you. Releasing negative emotions that have become solidified in the psyche is necessary to one's well-being. As one saying goes, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Anger, like other intense emotions, is not wrong, but there's a point when it's worn out its usefulness and when it's no longer a source of clarity or boundaries or personal power, but is simply a grudge held in the body and mind. And when this is the case, we need to let it go. I wonder if that paragraph might directly apply to maybe what you were referencing before. Cultivating positive feeling states is perhaps even more important. Studies on compassion and empathy by neuroscientist Tanya Singer and colleagues at the Max Planck Institute show that compassion training increases positive feelings and activates the corresponding brain networks associated with positive emotions. Other research in the field of social and developmental psychology confirms that people who feel compassion in a given situation help others more often. And then 3 positive feelings that are supportive in our relationship with others and that can make a difference in our conversations are sympathy, empathy, and compassion. The dictionary treats these as synonyms, but there are nuances in meaning that are important in developing our skills in conversation. It turns out that there is research that shows that there are actually distinctive differences in our brain activity, especially between feeling empathy and feeling compassion, which I thought that was really, really interesting. Sympathy is feeling sorrow or pity from another person's pain. Happy birthday, Mom Boss Lady! Happy birthday! How you feeling today? The Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary describes it as an affinity, association, or relationship between persons or things wherein whatever affects one similarly affects the other. For example, if a friend's father passed away or we encounter a distant person, we can cognitively relate to their suffering and feel for it, but we can also maintain some emotional distance. It is clear that their grief or misfortune is not ours. Empathy involves more intimacy and emotional exchange. When we empathize, we feel the pain or suffering of others and recognize the felt experience of that suffering in ourselves. Rather than feeling for, we feel with. It's akin to relating to the suffering of a close friend or family member rather than to the strangers. Scientists explain that it is through the activation of mirror neurons that we experience empathy. These are brain cells that respond to witnessing someone else having an experience as though we are having the same experience ourselves. This is the reason why many people in the helping professions experience burnout. They are literally registering others' pain and suffering, that same experience in their own bodies on a daily basis. Compassion, on the other hand, also feels the pain of others, but unlike empathy, there is no distress signal in the brain. Because of this difference, compassion can actually persevere and reinforce the calmness of the mind. And in this way, compassion is a renewable resource. Furthermore, we can train in generating compassion, thus relieving the burnout that results from empathy alone. Compassionate activity is energizing and contributes to the transformation of many difficult situations, even the most intractable conflicts. We have many collective challenges facing us today, and while these problems can feel overwhelming to us, if love and compassion are in our hearts, every thought, word, and deed can bring about a miracle. Our current challenges present a golden opportunity to expand our hearts and strengthen our compassion. Because of the available energy of compassion, it increases our courage for acting in the world rather than withdrawing and becoming depressed, despondent, or cynical. I'm telling you guys, this book is literally everything.